What's up to my Parenting in Noir tribe? Happy Wednesday. Happy Thanksgiving Wednesday. For most of you, if you were smart enough, you took the day off or the week off so that you could prep yourself for Thanksgiving, whether you're hosting people or you're traveling. For the rest of us, we're probably on our last day or last few hours before we can do all those things. But whatever the case is, I hope you have a lovely holiday season with family, friends, good food, and lots of laughs. Um, and also, Black Friday is coming. If you're a consumer like me, you're ready to empty your wallets out in the streets or on the virtual highways. Either way, enjoy your time, make your weekend count. And as I think about the next few days, especially Black Friday and Cyber Monday weekend, it lends itself to a topic that I've been thinking a little bit about, and that's self care. So, self care doesn't necessarily have to be about being consumer focused, but self care is that time when you are thinking about you, the things you like, the things you want, and potentially indulging in those. And so, for some of us, again, it is about spending money, buying things, whether those things are for Christmas gifts and other things, or it could be that they're entirely for you. Either way, um, it lends the notion that you are going out of your way in a very intentional fashion to commemorate a time period where, again, people have the whole phrase treat yourself. So, hopefully, as you think about self care, something immediately came to mind for you. What does self care represent for you? For me, it's actually not shopping, it's more traveling, seeing the world, new sights, sounds, and people. And so I have been an avid traveler since my mid 20s when I got my passport for the first time. There was no turning back. I have traveled alone, I've traveled with friends, I've traveled with partners and family, and I've enjoyed just about every way that I've traveled. One thing that has changed, though, for me is that I've traveled less since the birth of my daughter for many reasons. Number one, logistically speaking, traveling with an infant or a small child is very difficult, as many of you know and have experienced. It can be taxing, whether physically, mentally, financially. And sometimes you think to yourself, oh, it's just not worth it. And then also for us that have been new or first time parents, we often are daunted with the notion of leaving our kid or kids with people, even if it's close loved ones, for long periods of time. And so we generally will say, no, that's okay. I don't need to do it. Or we do very short trips where we feel comfortable in getting back home if we need to. Um, then the pandemic has hit. And of course, that's added a layer of complexity to the travel arena, and the notion of being um, in close quarters with people doesn't quite sit the same as it used to. And so I am now struggling with the notion of what does self care look like for me. And so I don't know if many other parents face this dilemma on a regular basis in your lives. If you think back to what your version of self care looked like pre kids, it's probably really, really, really different than what it looks like now. For those of you who have been veterans for a while, have you rediscovered your self care, or are you just getting to that point of thinking about it now? For those of us who are still in the trenches of relatively young children, are you self caring? And what does that look like? And more importantly, is there mom guilt? Is there dad guilt about the things you do for yourself? Whether it's a spa day, whether it's buying a new set of golf clubs, whether it's traipsing around the world, are you guilty or do you enjoy yourself? And so, my challenge for you, as well as myself, is to really focus on the things that essentially make you you. The things that when you think about them, it gives you joy immediately. You plan and you fantasize about doing that thing, whatever it is. Again, running, traveling, spending money, going to concerts, looking at a play, whatever it is. Do you do it? And if so, how often? Is it a rare treat that you still feel guilty about when you do it? Or do you literally say, I got it, they're going to be all right, and you leave? If you're in that latter category, I envy you. And I am trying to get closer and closer into that direction than I am now. I want intentionality in terms of my joy. I want intentionality in terms of my plans and my desire to be selfish, and to not even put a label on it to say that I'm being selfish, but that I'm doing things that I want to do for me. I can be a good partner, I can be a good mother, I can be a good employee, and still spend time with and for myself. And so I again challenge those of you who are listening and thinking about what self care means to you, and do you have terms and conditions that you attach to it, um, to be a little bit more thoughtful about it. I listened to a YouTube session by Rashida Dow. You can find her on YouTube at Sheeta's on the Loose. And as a part of her conversation, a segment came up that made me think about self care and not losing yourself. And so within that comment, she mentioned that a gentleman was speaking to some American tourists when she was in Cabo San Lucas. And he essentially had a few statements. One is, none of us has a ticket for tomorrow. Let me pause there for a second. None of us has a ticket for tomorrow. I think many of us are constantly making plans, whether in our heads or in writing, for things that we don't even have access to. A lot of us spend our whole lives putting off our joy, putting off our experiences for tomorrow. And as he said, none of us has a ticket for tomorrow. You have a ticket for this very moment. So how about planning and not ignoring the future, but simultaneously not getting so bogged down, planning each step, each envisioned scenario, all the possible issues that might arise, that you fail to live your life today? Why do you hesitate? Why do you say, I'll get everyone else and I'll get myself tomorrow? So the challenge is, can you actively live your life today versus proclaiming that you're going to live your life tomorrow, next week, next year, and 10 years? And to make sure that you're not saying that you're going to live your life in those ways under very specific circumstances and in very specific ways. So seize your joy where you can find it. Don't use the label selfish. Use the label self-care. You are a better person all around when you take that time for yourself. And I get it. Sometimes finances do stand in the way. For some of us, it's not finances. It is more of that mental game of all the reasons why you should or shouldn't do something. So after hearing about the passing of a young lady who was so full of life, who just recently was in the midst of a grand celebration, and to find out that she passed today, it's surprising. It's shocking, and it fills me with sadness, because I don't know if she planned for tomorrow and just got to see today. But again, my challenge is for you and for me. Stop living for tomorrow. Do the things that you want and need today, and do so unapologetically. And so I invite you, along with myself, to explore what it looks like when you dream radical dreams and you actually turn those into reality. So again, hopefully y'all have a lovely holiday weekend.